And welcome to another edition of Duck Snow and Spores. This week, we're talking about Wild Card Weekend with 4 interesting matchups. Should be a good weekend, but I have to give some time right now to my man, Obama. Said he has some thoughts on his Chicago Bears not making the playoffs. So, Obama, take the stage. Yeah, interesting. Good job, Obama. Good job. Insight as always, and you could tell. Oh, that Obama right there was one pissed off Chicago Bears fan. All right, to the games this week. Our first matchup is the Cincinnati Bengals, the red hot Cincinnati Bengals, traveling to Houston, who are everything but red hot as they have lost 3 out of 4 games. We'll start with the Bengals here. You know, the Bengals, I've been saying for pretty much the whole year, if the Bengals get into the playoffs, nobody's going to play them because they are a really good team, in my opinion. I think Andy Dalton, the last couple weeks, has taken his game to a whole new level. Finding A.J. Green has slowly turned to one of the best receivers in the NFL, and I really like the way the Bengals are playing. But what's most impressive about the Bengals isn't their offense, it's their defense as they get after the passer like there is no tomorrow. And it reminded me a little bit, of the 2000 Ravens. Not as dominant, obviously, but just the way they get after the passer is just so freaking good. And I really like the Bengals this week because I think Andy Dalton will find A.J. Green and A.J. Green all day. And I think they will run the ball just enough to get it done. Because they're taking on a Houston Texans team, let's be honest. Mid-season, this was everybody's Super Bowl pick, but let's be honest. The last couple weeks, they have not been impressive, losing to teams like Minnesota. Last week to the Colts, you know, getting blown against the Patriots weeks ago. Anderson getting blown out by the Green Bay Packers. All their losses, they have not looked good. And it's pretty obvious, you just can't turn on and off a switch in the NFL. You need to go all out all the time, and the Houston Texans not coming in red hot. That's how teams win Super Bowls. Look at last year with the Giants. You know, last year the Giants went in red hot and they won the Super Bowl. Houston Texans doing the opposite right now, starting the season red hot, but floundering down the stretch. And it's pretty clear. Matt Schaub, in my opinion, is not a franchise guy. He's not a guy who can lead you to a Super Bowl. But for Houston to win this game, they got to get back to the basics. That is running the ball with Foster, and then finding Andre Johnson down the field. And on defense, just set J.J. Watt off, which he has not been playing well the last couple of weeks, so I do not like Houston at all this week. I think the Bengals, with, as I said, A.J. Green and Andy Dalton playing so well, and this defense being unstoppable the last couple of weeks, I just think Cincinnati right now is just that hot team, and don't be shocked if the Cincinnati Bengals win this game and go on to win next week as well, because I think they're playing that well right now, and I like the Cincinnati Bengals to win their first ever road playoff game this week as they go into Houston and beat the Houston Texans. Our next matchup, Minnesota traveling to Green Bay, take on the Packers. Of course, a rematch from last week where Adrian Peters came that close, 9 yards away from the all-time single-season rushing record. Very, very impressive season by Adrian Peterson, in my opinion. Is the hands down, no Peyton Manning's play well this year, but is the hands down MVP. We'll see how that turns out in a couple weeks. But, you know, for Minnesota, I think they're in trouble this week. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're in trouble this week because they got a lot of players that could be good in the future. Guys like Christian Ponder and a few other players in their defense, but they're not used to the coldness that's going to be Green Bay playing in that dome, of course, in Minnesota. I think it's really going to affect guys like Christian Ponder, who is from Florida, and guys like their kicker who's from Georgia. And it's just, I think it's really going to affect them this week. And for the Vikings to have a chance in this one, they'll have to ride Adrian Peterson. They'll have to do it. That's the only way they're going to win this week. Because if Adrian Peterson plays balls out and has another great game against the Green Bay Packers, which he's had about almost 400 yards rushing against Green Bay Packers this year, they will have a chance. And if this defense plays the way they did down the stretch, the Vikings will have a chance to game, but let's be honest, they're going to Green Bay, and Green Bay is just, I know they lost last week, but they seem to be the hottest team going into the playoffs, in my opinion, in the NFC. There's a team that you don't want to play in the NFC playoffs, they seem to be the best team, maybe next to Atlanta right now, in the NFC. I mean, Aaron Rodgers finding all his great weapons, and no what's impressed about Green Bay. I mean, I know Adrian Peterson led them up last week, but this defense has improved week in and week out, really playing well. And Green Bay kind of looks like the team they were in 2010. You know, that team that went to the Super Bowl, won that Super Bowl. They're kind of looking like that team right now, and I'm really liking Green Bay. And I think Adrian Peterson will have a good game, because he always has a good game against Green Bay. I think the inexperience of Christian Ponder is going to show in this game. I think he's going to throw a couple picks. I expect this defense in Green Bay to show up, and I think Aaron Rodgers will do what he does, which is be great. And I expect the Green Bay Packers to get it done in this one, and it'll be a close game, but the Green Bay Packers get it done and go on to the next round. The next game, very emotional side on both sides, as the Colts travel to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. You know, we'll start with the Colts. You know, very emotional last week seeing Coach Chuck Devano finally come back after beating cancer. Very, very impressive. And they came to play last week in a game that really meant nothing to them, as they had the 5th seed already locked up and knew they were going to be the 5th seed, win or lose. And very, very impressive against the Houston Texans last week. And very emotional story this year. Of course, one of the biggest stories of the year. Of course, week 3 he got announced that he had cancer, and then fought his tail off like he's done his whole life to come back. And very, very impressive by a coach to come back so soon. I didn't expect to see him back this season. I thought we'd see him next season, and we gotta give it to Bruce Arians, who the offensive coordinator was the interim head coach. Very, very played it very cool the whole year, but very, very impressive coaching job the whole year, winning, of course, 9 games when Coach was out. Very, very impressive. And Bruce Arians, for my opinion, for my money, should be up for a head coaching job this year, because he really just showed he is a leader of men and could really be a good head coach in the NFL. But all being said, I got sappy stuff out of the way. I think the Colts, Colts are everybody's kind of second favorite team now, as Andrew Luck's playing well as a rookie. Could be the rookie of the year, who knows? Maybe down to him and RG3. But I think Andrew Luck should be over his head this week, because the playoffs are a beat faster and a beat stronger. I mean, very, very, he's gonna be uphill sledding, if you will. As I just think this whole team is very inexperienced. They have a few players from their Super Bowl runs a couple years ago, but in the offseason, the Colts did a very good job of just gutting this team, and he lost a lot of experience. And I think it will affect them this week as they travel to Baltimore. And of course, yesterday the big announcement in Baltimore was Ray Lewis. You know, for my opinion, the best middle linebacker I've ever seen, because I never saw Dick Butkus live, but for my money, the best middle linebacker I've ever seen, one of the best linebackers I've ever seen, and one of the best football players in general I've ever seen, in Ray Lewis fatiring after the season. It's not even the same without Ray Lewis, let's be honest. Like, who doesn't love Ray Lewis? I can't think of one player, one fan out there that doesn't just adore Ray Lewis. Everybody loves Ray, and I think it's going to be, the league's not going to be the same without Ray Lewis. It's not going to be the same without his pregame speeches every week. I expect him maybe get a job in TV when it's all done, or just say, as he said, his press conference yesterday, you know, just go watch his kids. Of course, his oldest son got a scholarship to Miami, so it should be interesting. But I think this could really be a big. I think this was smart by Ray Lewis to announce it before, because I think this will motivate the other players on the team to play well, because everybody loves Ray Lewis on the Ravens. You know, he is the Ravens. And I just expect Ray Lewis motivation to spark the whole team, because let's be honest, they didn't play well down the stretch, but I think they got a good matchup this week against an inexperienced Colts. And I think with this defense, we'll be flying at Andrew Luck. He won't know what to do. And I expect the Baltimore Ravens charged by the announcement of Ray Lewis retiring. They want to get one more for Ray. They will get it done this week against Andrew Luck and the Colts and the Baltimore Ravens. Get it done and beat the Colts. And our last matchup of the week is also our juiciest matchup of the week. Is the Seattle Seahawks, the red-hot Seattle Seahawks, playing really well down the stretch, traveling to Washington to take on the upstart Washington Redskins in FedEx Field. Should be an interesting one, and honestly, this one can go either way. Sorry, Seattle. You know, Seattle about mid-season really found a new grind as they just played so well. You know, putting up all those points. You know, Russell Wilson, you know, he's too short to play football. Well, I guess everybody was wrong, weren't they? I guess he's okay to play in the NFL. I guess he is a star in the NFL after all. I guess everybody was wrong, weren't they? And, but Seattle playing really well, as I said. You know, offense, defense, probably the best, most underrated defense in the league, as Seattle's really playing lights out the last couple of weeks. And I really like the Seahawks going forward. I mean, I really think Seattle could be that sleeper team in the NFC this year. I mean, they got the defense. The only problem with Seattle, can they go on the road and get it done in playoffs? Because basically, unless Minnesota makes it to the NFC Championship game with them, they're going to have to play every game on the road during this postseason. And that's why I think Seattle might run a little trouble. You know, weren't great on the road, only 3-5 on the road this year. But I just think Seattle playing really well, lights out defense, getting after the passer. And I really like Seattle in this one because they're playing RG3. And yes, I've been on RG3's bandwagon the whole year. Thought he was Rookie of the Year from basically the start of the season. But it's pretty clear RG3 is not playing well right now. He's not well. I think that knee's still bothering him. As you can see last week against the Dallas Cowboys, one of his biggest threats is his legs and how fast he gets out of the pocket. Well, he struggled last week against a very weak pass rush in the Dallas Cowboys. I think it'll affect him this week because I think Seattle will run the football effectively with Lynch on a very good defense in Washington, more or less. But I think they'll do enough with Lynch. And Russell Wilson will get it done. This defense will come to play. I think the Seattle Seahawks go into Washington and get it done against a very impressive season for the Redskins. But it comes to an end this week as the Seattle Seahawks get it done in Washington. Well, that's it. To recap my picks, I like Cincinnati over Houston. I like Green Bay to beat Minnesota. I like a charged Baltimore Ravens to beat the Colts. I like the Seattle Seahawks to beat the Washington Redskins. Should be interesting. It's playoff time now. It's playoff time. It's when the big boys come to play. And should be interesting how these games work out because I think we're in for one hell of a weekend of NFL football. Well, till next time, I'm Aaron Duxer saying I'm Dux, and I know sports. Kind of.